So every year I go to Yosemite. I have an annual trip there because I'm pretty close to it and it's just beautiful. By the time I was done and I left the park, I felt like I had to be treated like a child the whole time. Like, Jess, you want to make sure you get your water now. Honey, get your water for your hike. And because it's going to be a strenuous activity, you want to make sure that you have a salty snack with you when you go do that. Okay, little Jessie? Okay? And I want you to stay away from the surprisingly swift rivers of glacial melt. They're very cold. And if you fall in, you could drown. Okay, little Jessie? Okay. And then you read things like, rivers and waterfalls are beautiful but treacherous. Be alert for undercut banks and slippery rocks. Fast currents and cold water are a deadly combination. Do not swim above waterfalls. Do not swim above waterfalls. Or in swift water, keep children in sight. And sadly, this is what Americans need. Americans have become so disconnected from nature, so disconnected from knowing how to take care of their needs and being responsible for themselves, that they have to go into a national park, which is clearly wildly dangerous. Like we think we're going to a park, like it's like a public park and there's gonna be swings, or we're going to Disneyland where it's a park. Like, I don't even know if we should call these parks. Like, this is treacherous wilderness and you could die. Okay? If we were to actually name it what it is, then maybe people would be a little bit more cautious and prepared and take it upon themselves to be responsible. Like, you're going to enter into a place where you're probably going to die unless you know wilderness skills, welcome. That might be better for us. I think what's happening in our country, we are stripping words of their meaning. We are reducing everything to like bounce house romper room terminology, where everyone thinks they can just show up into the most dangerous environments. And they don't know anything about it. They don't think it's dangerous. They don't know they need to bring water and a salty snack. They don't know anything about how dangerous wildlife is. Like, we're not dealing with Bambi and, Winnie the Pooh. But the children are raised on fantasy. We are raised on an enormous amount of delusional fantasy. We think that if we watch things on television that we have become experienced, and yet we have never exercised any of our problem solving, we don't have any skills, and we don't operate in our senses. We don't have a sensory world because all we do is just live in our head in a delusional fantasy, thinking that we're capable of things that we're not. And so I just, rites of passage, I guess what I want to say, rather than like having 1,000 different things of telling you what to do and not to do, I just want to say caution. Don't be stupid. And yet it's almost like, we're not allowed to say that some people are stupid. And yet that's exactly what's going on. Now, a child, they are at a state of just a naivety, an ignorance that needs training. It needs guidance. It needs help. But if you bypass childhood and you continue on in that ignorance, you have passed into stupidity. That you have not seen any need to develop any awareness, self-awareness, outdoor awareness, like zero comprehension that you are responsible for yourself wherever you go. And it used to be that there was no signage whenever you'd go anywhere, like, don't put your dog there, or don't keep your dog in a hot car with the windows rolled up, and I'm not faulting a lot of these government agencies for what they have to do and all this paperwork. Because sadly, a lot of these people will be, these government facilities, they'll be sued by a tourist that says, well, you didn't tell me. That's why it seems like the safety information is just multiplying as more and more and more Pack essentials. Like, if you don't know this, when you go to Yosemite, you shouldn't be going. Pack essentials, including a flashlight, sunscreen, weather-appropriate clothing, sturdy footwear, plenty of snacks, and reliable navigation tools. Like, you shouldn't be going, and like, you should already know that and have been trained in this, and have your bug out bag and you're ready to go. This shouldn't be like, oh, we should probably stop by Walmart to pick these things up. Like, it's not wise. But they have to do this because Americans are litigious. Well, you didn't tell me that I could fall off a 2,000-foot cliff if I was just hiking right on the side and then a big storm comes. You didn't tell me, so I'm gonna sue you. Like what? Are you kidding? We are that foolish? And that's what's happened. No one wants to take personal responsibility for their choices. They just want everyone to tell them what to do and not to do all day long, like we are in preschool, getting our little vanilla wafers and our apple juice in a little Dixie cup. And then when something goes wrong, because it's not supposed to go wrong, because apparently we're in Disneyland all the time where it's just always wonderful and magical. But when it goes wrong, it's like, I'm going to sue everybody. I'm going to sue everybody. We need to get more rules and more control. And this should have never happened. How dare you? Right? And I don't want to say that I don't have sympathy for a lot of the absolutely devastating stories that have happened. But I also believe that we've got to stop putting all the pressure on these parks. And I fear that it's going to get worse and worse. Everywhere we go, we're going to have thousands of signs as we're driving down the road. It's everywhere. There's just this like constant information of do this, don't do that. You get in a new car and it's like, they have some video flashing like, drive safely, drive carefully. Like, yeah, the fact that I bought a new car, I got a driver's license, I had to learn to drive carefully. That I learned that back 101. Like, why are you having to tell me on this screen? And because that screen distracts me, and now I'm like, drive carefully. Oh, what? Like, like, don't distract me with all this like cautionary information. I got it, right? We got it. But apparently a lot of people don't got it, and that's the problem. Is now all the people who have taken the time to develop experience and intelligence, and they've become smart about going places and doing things. They know how to prepare for it. They know what to expect. They have to be bludgeoned with all of this. All of these safety, caution, do this, don't do that. Red sign, axe this. You can't fly drones in the national park. Like, why would you go to a beautiful national park where there's people around who want to enjoy the quiet and beauty, and you're flying a drone that's like, do you realize people don't want to listen to that? Or like, don't play loud music, because people are wanting to go to nature to be quiet. And so this really annoys me. If there's anything that annoys me as far as rites of passage, is it's how much Americans, I don't know about the rest of the world, but we're an incredibly ignorant people, incredibly foolish, and we have to constantly be given all these, do this and don't do that, and like we're children. Because we are. Americans are incredibly childish. And I think it has to do with this fear of hurting people's feelings. That you can't tell someone like, hey, don't be stupid. You're being foolish. Knock it off. We can't say anything like that for the fear we're going to hurt somebody's feelings. Or there might be an overprotective mother, like, don't tell my child that they don't know. It's like, they need to know that they don't know. We all need to know what we don't know and be told when we're being foolish, when we're being ridiculous, when we're being deadly and dangerous. We usually hear about people being genius, and we're allowed to call people a genius because that's like cool to be that smart, or you're above average, you're highly intelligent, whatever. But some of you might not know that the names idiots, imbecile, and moron came from the intelligent quotient. They were just strictly technical diagnostic words. So from 0 to 25, you were an idiot. You had very little to no interaction when there was any communication or stimuli. 26 to 50, you're an imbecile. You never exceeded 6 years old. And 51 to 70, you'd be considered a moron. But in the 1970s, and this is, to me, this sounds similar to what we're going through now, there were people that felt that these terms were demeaning and that it would ultimately hurt people's feelings. And I wonder who was the one who felt demeaned. Probably a lot of the idiots, imbeciles, and morons were too moronic to even to know that they were, that it was demeaning. They maybe didn't care. And so it was the other people around them that maybe thought, well, this is rude. This is, this is not socially acceptable to do. It's derogatory. It's interesting that this whole test that was created from someone from Stanford, they call it the various levels of retardation. And we know that word is completely axed from our English dictionary now. We're not allowed to say it because that's not politically correct. But I believe that we need to come to some agreement that unless we begin to value words and begin to call things what they are, people will carry on and just be able to go headlong into absolute disaster because they think they're smarter than they are. They think that they've had the participation award, and so they must, be ready to participate in whatever they want, and they're going to get an award for it. Right? So that's why I'm so adamant about rites of passage, is because these young people are getting into situations that are absolutely deadly, absolute foolishness. They're going headlong into these heavy addictions online. They don't realize how much it's going to be destroying their future hope of marriage or healthy relationships or healthy functioning, right? Like, no one's saying you're being an idiot. It's like, no, you just have an addiction and you have this wound from your childhood. No. Based on how you are operating with the lowest problem-solving functioning skill set, you are behaving like an imbecile. You are no more than 6 years old right now, and you need to know it. So unless we begin to drop all of this like hypersensitivity and worrying about everyone's feelings, what's going to be happening is that people are going to be buying their Patagonia jackets, their down jackets. They're going to be buying a Subaru. They're going to be buying their Columbia boots, and they're going to be going out into deadly wilderness and dying because they bought the gear. They think, I got the gear, I know what I'm doing. I got the gear and I got the paperwork. So we're going to go into the most deadly, dangerous environment. And what happens is that every year people die in these national parks, but they keep it on the down low because they don't want to lose the crowds. They don't want to upset their tourism and their profit. And again, it's hard for all the smart people in this country to have to be told, did you bring your water? Because it's exhausting to a smart mind to have to be told the same thing over and over and over again. I know families where they're training their children. The kids are like 10 years old, and they are far more equipped than most 30, 40, 50-year-olds that I have known to go out into the wilderness, because those children have been trained extensively by the time they're 10. And that's what we should be doing with our children. They should be able to do so much more, rather than show up at these national parks and be told you have a salty snack, Like, these kids should be able to have their own problem solving and go, I know exactly what I need because I know where I'm going and I know the challenge and I know the danger and I can do it. I can manage it. And I know if this awful thing happens, I know how to survive in that because they went through the preliminary steps of being trained even in their own home, in their own backyard. They're practicing. I do believe, like, caution, don't be a moron. We need to say this. Caution, don't be an imbecile. Don't be an idiot. Because I fear that we are below 70 on the IQ as far as how we are functioning with our problem solving. Unfortunately, I think a lot of these words have been taken over by the higher functioning people to demean people, but this wasn't what it was intended for. But people will always do that. They take great words like the word retarded, and then they're going to call you retard, right? So it changes it. It's like, it was a good word that it like pushes away. Like it's not capable of absorbing, you know, this problem solving skill set. Instead, people just make it a really rude thing. And then we have to lose another word because we're worried about everyone's feelings. And all we want to do is just control more of the environment to make it safe for everybody. When I believe we need to become the ones who are capable of discerning our limits, knowing what we can and cannot do and what is safe. You know, a lot of this stuff just isn't safe, and it never will be. And we need to stop forcing our expectations of safety on everything. We need to know that life is not safe, people die, and we have to live as smart as we can. So rites of passage, mine, rather than all this caution of all the things you need to do, caution, caution, caution. It's just caution, don't be stupid. Don't be an idiot. Don't be so lazy that you never seek to be fully responsible for yourself. And I really hope that you take this to heart, that if you are behaving like a fool, if you are not gaining the proper knowledge by the time you enter into your teenage years and young 20s, like, you really need to take this time to develop yourself and grow up and become a responsible human being. Because a lot of us who have done the work are really tired of being told some of the most basic, childish things that you should have learned when you were 5 years old. All right. Thank you for your time, and I'll talk with you soon. Bye-bye.